Welcome to another episode of Fight Talk with Roger Narvaez, brought to you by the CTL podcast team. Today we got somebody who's I call her a little stick of dynamite. She's a all-around badass. And today we're bringing in Marina Robles. She's currently the only female amateur MMA fighter in Corpus Christi that I know of that's actively competing in the sport of MMA. Currently she trains out of Weapons at Hand Mixed Martial Arts Academy in Narvaez Jiu-Jitsu. She's currently a full-time fighter and a social media content creator. So I'm sure you might have seen some of her TikToks and all that good stuff out there. But we'd like to welcome her to the show. So Marina, how's it going?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Good, awesome. Glad you could make it. I know you're always. You do a really good job of promoting yourself, so I can say that. So it's good to have you in here. I know you've been doing some podcasts and interviews. So how has that been for you? Because I know it's kind of new for you, right?
Yeah, it's new. It's exciting. I actually just started this week is my first week on the Fight Card podcast.
I saw that.
Yeah, so they officially have me on as like a co-host about once a week. We'll just kind of chat about anything, UFC fights, the fights coming up, like the ones that are this week for the team.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty much anything else. And then blogging, I'm gonna be doing their blog as
awesome.
well. Yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I know that fight. It's called the Fight Card, right? The Fight Card podcast, and it's Spider.
Yes, Spider.
Yeah, Spider. Yeah, he was actually one of the first guys to interview me. So it's cool to see him continuing to kind of spread the word and get a lot of different fighters the exposure, because as you know, like, exposure helps, right?
Yes.
So it helps. Well, let's get right into it. I mean, are you from Corpus? You're born and raised here?
Nope.
No? Okay,
I'm
what's
actually,
your story?
I'm from Lubbock,
Okay.
so still from Texas.
Yeah.
But my dad was in the Navy, so we traveled a lot. Mostly I grew up in California. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
well,
then,
you made the move. Well,
yeah, before everything went crazy.
You're one of the Californians that we definitely don't mind having here.
Yes. Every now and then I think you can hear it when I'm talking.
Yeah.
I'll like have my little Valley Girl moments and say like a lot. But for the most part, I mean, I grew up there and then I moved here in high school and then I graduated from Carroll. So,
oh, really?
Like you went to Carroll, right?
Yeah. 02, class of 02.
Yeah.
We won't tell anybody how old you are, because that's not appropriate. But no, that's Carroll Tigers. So after high school, what did you get into?
I actually went to Bible college. So
wow.
like straight from there, I had a summer off, and then I went to Texas Bible Institute.
Really?
Yeah. So it's in Columbus, Texas, right
Okay.
outside of Katy. It's super small.
Right.
I mean, I feel like the college was the
whole
whole place.
Yeah.
And then I was there for a year and a half, and then I worked on staff for their summer camp.
Okay.
And then I moved back to Corpus. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
So how does somebody go from going to Bible college to wanting to punch people in the face on the regular?
It's actually funny. I had the rep there of being like one of the UFC girls, because it was me and one other girl that had trained martial arts that went. And I remember she was in my dorm and I heard her conversation down the hallway and I was like, this girl's talking about fighting. And I remember I ran to her room and instant best friends.
Right.
So her and I were there, something I've always been into. And then I guess whenever I moved to Corpus, I just joined. Well, actually, it was like 4 years after I moved to Corpus that I joined a gym.
So you'd always had the interest, but you never really dove into it.
Yeah, the closest was wrestling in high school.
Right. Okay, so you wrestled for Carroll?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Awesome. That's always a great base to start with. Carroll didn't have wrestling when I was going there, so it was like, for the longest time, in fact, like here in Corpus, the wrestling wasn't very good.
Yeah.
So the fighters here, like, they were great at jiu-jitsu or great at striking, but there was no like in between with the, how do you get the fight to the ground, So it's good to see that wrestling's blown up the way it has. But so you did some wrestling, and go ahead with your...
Yeah, so I mean, when I moved here, I finally joined American Revolution.
Okay.
And so I think it was either it had to be like 2018, 2019. Because I was training for about a year and a half, and then COVID happened, and then I was also out with an injury. So from that point on, I was on and off training for like 4 years.
Okay.
I mean, this past year actually at Weapons was like my first solid year.
Of
September was a year.
Yeah. Dang, that's crazy. Seems like you've been there so much longer, but
it's only been a year. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So you never really, I mean, you always had an interest, but I mean, was it, typically somebody always has that like for me, I was always into martial arts. My parents were always into martial arts movies and Bruce Lee and, all the old school Steven Seagal and all those guys, right? What was kind of your draw to the sport? I mean, was it something like that, or was it just, I mean, where did you kind of get exposed to the martial arts per se?
I guess I'd have to say my dad. I think that was kind of like our bonding thing. Growing up, I was actually I was always a tomboy, so I was always outside playing with the boys, roughing around. But my dad was into boxing, and cool. I think just watching that, and then as I got older, it was like I wanted to be an FBI agent or the first girl in the NFL.
Wow, so you had big dreams. You had big dreams.
So and in like male dominated environments, but I think I just always had that tomboy aspect. And then I really enjoyed watching fighting with my dad, and then I just wanted to do it.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome because, I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is like it's got to be pretty intimidating to want to do a male-dominated sport and walk into somewhere where there is that, you're basically walking into a gym full of a bunch of dudes beating each other up,
Yeah, and I'm like this big.
Yeah. So, I mean, for you guys that are watching the YouTube channel, of course, you see she's a tiny little thing. But for those of you that are just listening to the podcast, she's about 4'11", 4'10", and walks around about 110 pounds. How did what made you take that step? Because that's a big step for a lot of people, especially somebody your size, right? And then you're a female. I'm sure, I can tell you walk around with that little chip on your shoulder wanting to be able to prove yourself, right? So I'm sure you walked in there somewhat confident, but how was it your first time going into an MMA or kickboxing gym?
It was I was actually going through a really unfortunate life change that I think was the final push I needed. So at the previous gym, I was training a lot, and then of course COVID happened. I just wasn't as active, and I knew that this was something I really wanted to chase. So that whole life thing happened, and I was just kind of like, if there's ever a time, it's now. I'm getting older. I need experience. I need help because I don't know what to do.
Right.
So I decided to go to Weapons. And then when I went to Weapons, I remember being very nervous, even though I had experience in martial arts gyms before. It was just a new environment. So I was nervous, but I told myself it doesn't matter. If this is what you want, it doesn't matter what you're feeling right now. You know what you have to do. So I went in and I talked to Rudy. I told him that I had trained before. And then
we hear a lot, by the way.
Yes.
We hear a lot,
I'm sure. And so that's one of the reasons why I was more shy about the fact that I had experience, because I didn't want to come off I got experience, I know what I'm doing, and then I'm not good.
Right, no.
So I went in and I talked to him. I told him about the fight experience I had, and he invited me to come into the class.
Yeah.
I guess he was familiar with the gym too, so he was like, you know what, come into the MMA class, you're invited, let's see. And I was like, oh my God, okay, this is happening.
Yeah, because we don't do that with everybody.
No, that's what I've heard,
There's usually a period where you have to work your way into that class.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was willing to do that speaks a lot about how you came off to him.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I guess because I hear that all the time throughout the gym. I've had to wait a couple weeks to be invited.
Right.
And yeah, I was invited immediately, and I went in, I tried it out, and I was like, this is amazing. This is hard. It was difficult, not what I was used to, but I wanted it, and I was excited.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew, I'd seen you around, and I knew that you were doing the fighters class, and I always have a chip on my shoulder as a jiu-jitsu coach when I see people that are they're doing the fighters class, but they're not doing jiu-jitsu, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? What's up with that, you know? But eventually you ended up doing both.
Yes.
But I had seen you, and I could tell, like, you were technically proficient. Like, you knew what you were doing. You know, with the striking, you weren't just some girl coming in here, to, like, you know.
Yeah.
And then you were you know, hanging with the guys, which is a big thing, especially, like I said, somebody your size,
Yeah.
you know, being willing to get in there and get hit and get punched and get kicked and coming back day after day. So that's, you know, that speaks a lot about you as a person. You know, so that kind of leads us into, you know, where you're at now, and you've had a couple amateur fights. Let's talk about that first one. Let's talk about the feelings, the nerves, the pre-fight, the post-fight. Let's talk about, let's kind of cover it all. So you get your first fight, you're preparing, you go to weigh-ins. Kind of lead us into that as far as the feelings that you got in those, I would say, 3 days before, during, and then after the fight.
Okay, so before, I'm very blessed I don't have to cut weight. so I felt very energetic. I didn't feel like too big of like a strenuous week leading up to it, like some do, having to put their body through weight cuts and stuff.
Right.
So it's kind of funny. Coach Pat and I would joke about it. It's just like another day. It's just another day, because I'm not having to do anything too crazy out of the normal. I'm just fighting on the weekend. So that's pretty cool. So leading up to the fight, like, that was kind of a relief, I guess, like just one less thing I had to worry about. And then when I was actually there, I was excited. Like, I know I probably had a little bit of nervousness, but I think I'm such a bubbly person that I was just excited that this is happening. Like, I was like, wow, this is my first weigh-in. Like, they're actually taking pictures. Like, you know, I'm going to go up and fight. There's another girl who wants this as bad as I do. And I could feel, like, in the face-off that she was, like, wanting to fight. So it just felt like so surreal. Like, oh my God, I can't believe it's happening. And it was just amateur, you know. So,
but it's still a fight.
Oh, yeah,
you know,
definitely.
It's still a fight. I tell people that all the time. It's like, whether you're... I always tell them that about my UFC career, because it's like, how was it? And I'm like, whether you're fighting in front of, like, 10 people or you're fighting in front of thousands of people, like, it's still a fight. The nerves, the anxiousness, everything's still there. So, I mean, that's... It's definitely... Don't downplay it. Like, amateur or not, like, you're still willing to get in there and lock yourself in a cage against somebody who wants to punch you in the face.
Yeah,
you know?
and she did. I mean, before, like, the MMA fights, I did a few, or I did one tournament for Muay Thai, but I had 3 fights back to back. So even that was super different than this. Like, my opponent, just feeling her energy and her readiness, super different. And so, like, like you said, she wanted this. Like, she wanted to get in there and she wanted to hit me. So, so that was pretty great. And then, like, the whole experience itself. And then the fight, it was crazy. I thought I would be more nervous, but I actually felt really calm. Like, when I was backstage, I remember a lot of the team, they were asking me, like, are you okay? Are you good? And I was just kind of sitting there. Well, I actually felt like, oh, they care about me. They're making sure I'm okay. Cool, but I was just like, I don't know. I feel like I should be more nervous than I am. But I actually wasn't that nervous. I think as I'm doing it more and more, I think I'm getting more nervous now, because then I was kind of like this is my first experience. I don't even really know what to expect. Right. But now I'm like, okay, I know what to expect. I need to bring it. Like, now I feel a little bit more pressure. So now I'm getting a little bit more nervous, I guess.
That's weird.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like
that's weird, because you would think that as you, and just to put it out there, the nerves never go away, right? Yeah. They're always going to be there. But the fact that you had so many the first time, and then as you or you didn't have any the first time, and now you're getting more and more, it's kind of it's different. It's different for sure.
But I mean, it's just keeping me more motivated if anything, because it's like, it's a good nervousness. It's not like I'm nervous, scared. Oh my gosh, I want to back out, you know. Right. So and then I guess the second fight too, like, I actually felt kind of very similar. I wasn't like freaking out or anything backstage. I felt more confident in my grappling because from the first fight to the second fight, I did join the jiu-jitsu class and the no-gi and all of that. So I felt more prepared.
And you actually won that fight by
that was
yes, that was a proud coach moment to have 2 white belts go in there and both you and Manny were able to finish your fights with the rear naked choke.
Your
awesome.
comment on the Facebook made me laugh. I think you had said it made your day or something.
Yes, like, it totally did. I saw that and I was like, hell yeah, you know. But yeah, that was awesome. Well, you know, it's one of those things with fighting where you know, some people get into it and they just want to get their feet wet. They just want to try it out. You seem like to have the mindset of you want to do this. You want to take it as far as you can, however far that might be, right?
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
When did you know that? Did you know that right away, or was it something that was kind of like has gradually kind of come upon you?
A little bit of both. Like when I was in California, I also did Krav Maga with my mom.
Okay.
It was kind of like a self-defense thing / I was hanging out with a bunch of guys and they're like, Marina, we need to get you in like a group of friends. Find girlfriends. If you want to do something that's a little bit tomboyish, we'll get you self-defense. Like, so I did that with my mom. And from there, that's when I started learning about UFC and like fight shows. I don't remember what, maybe you know, it's like a mystery. I've talked about it on different podcasts before. There was a show of all women, and it was almost like Tough, like The Ultimate Fighter.
Okay.
But it was just all women, and it had to have been before 2010.
Okay.
I just remember watching it and immediately was like, I want to do that. Like, this is something
and it was like
I want to
MMA
get into.
stuff?
Yeah, it was MMA.
Really?
Yes.
Man,
I don't think it was UFC related for some reason.
Yeah.
But I just remember seeing it, and that's what sparked it in me, because I got to see them training. It wasn't just like seeing the big fight, and I was just like, man, I want to do that. I can do that.
Yeah.
And that's actually what I'd even tell myself now. Like, if you know, this person can do it or that person can do it, I am no different. I can do it.
Right.
So
and that's a great mindset to have. Yeah. I think a lot of times people look at what other people accomplish and they hold it on a pedestal, but what they don't realize is before somebody accomplished it, like nobody had, right? So you have to believe that you can do it. What's stopping you? And that's the mindset, you know, I had was like, who says I can't make it, right? Just because nobody else does. If you put that in your head, then you're defeated right off the bat.
Yeah.
Right. So the fact that you are carrying that's a great mindset to have, because with the work ethic you have, like, I don't see any reason why you can't make something really big of this, you know, so. Yeah.
Well, and I saw that, and I remember I told my parents, and, you know, of course they're like, yeah, sure, like, that's great, you know, let's see. I was, you know, I think 6th or 7th grade at that time, so it wasn't, like, I was still pretty young. And then I just carried that with me. Like, I didn't really do much when I moved here from California. That's when I joined wrestling. And again, that was the closest that I got to it. And then now I'm doing it now. So,
right.
I guess I just kind of like, after wrestling and I went to college and all of that, kind of had a break. And then when I came back, I was like, I need to get back into this, because this is what I want to do. Like, I've done X, Y, and Z, and I'm not happy with it. This is what makes me happy.
Right.
That's when I decided.
So what are some of the things that you've done? Because I know we talked before. I know you did the fitness training for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then what else have you dabbled in, or what kind of?
Actually, the legal field.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I was a litigation paralegal for about 2 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I loved it.
Really?
I loved it. Oh my gosh. And again, it was another, I don't know why, but it was another male-dominated atmosphere, and I just have something about wanting to just represent the women.
Yeah. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that.
I enjoyed it, you know. So I did that, and it actually came to the thought of like, am I going to pursue fighting? And, you know, I know that lifestyle is going to take over. Like, am I going to go that route, or should I go to law school? Because it's going to be just as, you know, big. Yeah, and demanding. Yeah. But again, I love fighting. I love being active. Yeah. So. Well,
and the one thing I tell people about that is, if you have the desire to fight, like, the older you get, the harder it is, right? I mean, obviously, there's a reason that there's a few out there, but the majority of fighters are between the ages of 20 and 40, I would say, right? you can always go back to law school. I know plenty of people that went
Yeah.
and you know, after years and years in their 40s, they got their degrees as lawyers. So, you know, for you to buckle down and chase this is, you know, do what you want to do, right?
Yeah.
So that's cool. Well, so you did the paralegal thing, you did some fitness training. I know right now you're constantly, I tell Ashley, I said, man, this girl needs to give a class on how to promote herself, because you do an awesome job.
Thank you.
All your content, I mean, it's always interesting. And you know, one thing I respect, and I told Ashley this as well, I said, you don't sexualize yourself.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Seriously, like, you taking pictures and you glam up, and you know, I know you have some where you're in your gear, or you're like, you know, in your different outfits, but there's nothing there that's like overly seductive or where you're like putting your body out there. And I respect that so much, you know. And as a coach, it's like, if you did do that, I mean, I can't really say anything bad about it, right? That's your path that you choose. But I think it speaks a lot to young women, and it sets a great example that you don't have to do that in order to get likes, right? Because unfortunately we live in a time where it's so easy to just stand in front of a camera half naked with gloves on, and next thing you know, your following is like grown by so many, you know, thousands. So
I wouldn't. No, I don't want to be known for that. Number one, like, how would I even know if I was that good? Like, if you're just giving me all of this, what do they call it? It's the slang word nowadays for all the praise. I don't remember. But if you're going to give me all of that praise, like, how do I know that I'm earning it from, like, my actual skill, and you're not just giving it to me because I'm posing half naked?
Right.
You know, like, I wouldn't want that. But also, that's just how I was raised. Like, modest is hottest is what my mom would say.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
So I just never have been that way. And then, like you said, you know, training and from a coach's perspective, like, I would, like, y'all are my family, y'all are my brothers, my coaches. Like, I would never want to make y'all feel uncomfortable or weird. And, like, I don't know. I respect y'all enough to, like, not. I just wouldn't. That's just not my scene.
And it's cool. It's good to see that, because, like I said, a lot of times, you know, women almost feel like they have to do that, and they don't. I mean, especially in fighting, like guys, yes, they will follow those girls that are dressing half naked or whatever, but they will also follow those girls that get in there and strap it on, like the girls that are willing to punch and fight. And I hate to say fight like men, right? Because I've honestly, it's funny how in fighting you often see females have more brutal fights, I think, and than the men, right? Like, that's why everybody, anytime there's a girl fighting, everybody always wants to tune in and
excited,
watch it.
to see.
It's kind of weird, the way people are just attracted to that, you know, because I think it's not of the norm,
right? Oh, right.
It's not of the norm. I mean, you truly are a minority, to the biggest, in the biggest sense of the word, because, you know, you're a female in a predominantly male sport, and then, you know, to go in there and fight, like, fighting is not for women, you know? I mean, and I at the risk of sounding sexist or whatever,
I understand what you're
but
doing.
it's one of those things where it's like, when somebody comes to attack my family, right? Like, I'm the one that's supposed to stand up, and you know, that kind of brings me into, this is kind of getting into a little bit of a lighter subject, but how is dating as a fighter? Because that's got to be intimidating to somebody. It's different when a fighter is dating a fighter, but for you dating, do you have a boyfriend?
Yes,
right
I do.
now? Okay, so you have a boyfriend.
Yeah.
Does he train martial arts at all?
He did, actually.
Okay, he did.
There was another event. This past year has been like crazy. Yeah. He actually got in a really bad car accident and broke both of his legs and almost died. Yeah.
Holy crap.
So yeah.
Oh my God.
But he's made a really great recovery.
Awesome.
I mean, it's November will be a year that it happened, and he's already like lightly running, which is
Awesome.
crazy because he broke both legs.
I had no idea. That's nuts.
So he isn't training right now anymore, but once he gets better, he wants to definitely.
Okay.
And we're already making
jokes.
He's
He from Corpus?
He's from Portland.
Portland.
Yeah,
okay.
but he lives. Well, now he's living in Rockport, but he was living in Corpus at the time.
Awesome. Yeah, that's crazy. So I mean, I give him all the praise because it's not easy dating after dating a girl, especially a fighter. Like he what did he do? Did he just do jiu-jitsu?
So he did Muay Thai.
Muay Thai,
yeah,
okay.
and I'm the one that brought him to it because I had noticed he'd been watching UFC, and I was like, you just try it. Like if you're into it, like just try it. And I was used to the whole like, oh no, I'm okay, I don't want to, because you know the guys that like to watch it and fight and. Watch it and watch the fights and like talk about it. But when it comes to doing it, sometimes they can get a little nervous too, you know, like you have these killers and they don't want to get strangled by them.
Exactly.
So he actually was open to it, and I was like, okay, like yes, this is awesome. And then he ended up loving it. So he actually watches a lot more of One Championship and boxing. Right. But yeah, so we'll watch UFC fights on the weekend.
That's cool. That's cool that y'all can share that. You know, it's for me personally, like I like the fact Ashley doesn't like know anything about it. She can't stand watching people get hit in the face. And I guess for me, I'm around it so much, and it's like literally my whole life is either firefighting or fighting. Yeah. So it's kind of refreshing to be with somebody that isn't. Yeah. But at the same time, I can see where somebody like yourself, you know, finds that bond with, and has it with somebody else.
Well, I always wanted to like make sure that whoever it was I was with, just in general, was healthy. And healthy, could defend themselves and defend me if needed. Right. But then also just took care of their body. Like when I see, you know, athletes and bodybuilders, I'm not just thinking like, oh, their muscles. I see discipline. Right. You know, they take time and effort into certain things. You know, planning stuff. Like it's a bigger picture. So that was always something that I wanted in a significant other. So I'm very blessed that he is that way. Yeah, and that he, you know, can even handle my schedule.
Yeah, because it's crazy. I know
your
schedule is crazy. You're all over the place, and I know we've had to be like, hey, where are you? But you're always doing something.
It's always something.
Yeah, it's not like you're just slacking and sitting on your ass for sure. So how did y'all guys meet? Like, did he know you were a fighter already?
No. So actually, we had met back in 2016. Okay. We were both working at Gold's Gym. So I was the front desk opener there at like 4 a.m.
Oh God.
Yeah, it was crazy. And he was a new trainer, and they didn't tell me that he was going to be there. So I actually thought he was like some guy breaking into the gym.
Really?
Yeah, because I was there, and I'm like, who are you? So that's actually how we met. We were like work friends, I guess, for a little while. Okay. And then eventually we started dating. There was a period where we had split up, and so during that period, I did dabble in the dating scene, and at that time, I was kind of fighting still, like getting into it, and that was, to answer your question about dating, like, I'm very blessed to have found Jeremy, because everybody else did not, it's not, like, their lifestyle that they want.
It takes a very specific person.
It really does.
Much less a person to a male, like, it takes a specific person just to date a fighter. Yeah. Yeah. Much less a female fighter. Yeah. Totally different. Yeah. I mean, that dude's got to be very humble and to be able to walk into a place where, I mean, like your instructors are there and you're constantly around them. He's got to be confident in himself as well and trusting of you because, I mean, let's face it, like you're in here with a bunch of dudes rolling around, being put in compromising positions. He's got to have faith that like, hey, this is all strictly business. Yeah. You know, don't be coming in here with a chip on your shoulder looking at us like we're trying to do something wrong. You know what I mean? So, you know, props to him for being able to carry that torch because it's I'm sure it's a little bit of a burden for him.
Yeah,
you know?
And he gets joked on by his friends all the time too. Like, don't piss her off. Yeah. So yeah, he definitely goes through it, but he's awesome.
Awesome. Well, what else do you enjoy doing? Like, what are some of your hobbies? I mean, you obviously fight and are training a lot. But in your spare time, what are some things that Marina likes to kind of enjoy to kick back?
Anything outdoors.
Really?
Yeah, longboarding is usually like a quick pastime. Go outside, longboard while I walk my dogs.
Yeah.
So writing is another one. Of course, the content making that
Right.
takes up a lot of time too. So
Yeah, no, I know. I just editing this stuff, like one thing, the podcast, I've all this stuff that I'm doing is like from scratch.
Yeah.
So the editing, I just spent like honestly 2 or 3 days trying to figure out how to upload my last video.
Yeah.
It was horrible.
The
And then I'm
adversity
there-
one?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. I
Overcoming
heard
adversity.
it.
Thank you. And so I uploading it to the Spotify and all that's easy, but I started recording and doing our YouTube now with our YouTube channel, and that has been like a pain in the ass. So I can only imagine, like, and as much as you put out, like, I know you're working on that
I'm
pretty
trying.
heavily.
Yeah, that's because there's people that'll put way more out there than I'm doing. I'm
I
just
don't
like,
know how,
man.
because you do a great job. I
Thank
know
you.
you're sponsored by Rocks.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So that helps too.
Yeah.
A
You're
lot.
making a lot of us other sponsored athletes look bad. Because,
No. Sorry.
because of how much stuff you put out there. I'm
sorry.
like, shit. I gotta, like. There's no way though. There's no way I can. I mean, I'm super fortunate to be sponsored by them, and I'm super glad that they are helping you out. I've been with them for years. I mean, since I was an amateur. Rock was one of the first guys to really believe in me and help me out on that level, and all the way from me being an amateur to coming up into the UFC level, like, he was there, and even after now. So it's always awesome because everybody goes in there looking for sponsorships.
Yeah.
And they're just looking to take, right?
Yeah.
And there was a period of time I remember where guys were like jumping from shop to shop, and they would go load up and then they would sell the supplements.
Oh my gosh.
Like, so that's why they have the contracts now, and that's why
that
they
makes
keep
sense.
track, and every athlete is allowed a certain.
Yeah.
And now they request you, like, hey, we need you to post this many times or whatever, because there were a lot of people that were just taking advantage, and Rock is a good guy. He's got a heart of gold, and finally he had some guys around him that really encouraged him to do what he's doing now, and it's great because there's people out there like you that could really use the help and appreciate the help, but can also understand that, hey, like, they're giving you this, but you're going to promote them.
Yeah.
And so it's awesome to see you on part of that team. And I know you, Peter, and myself are sponsored by him. So it's great to be part of the Rocks discount vitamin team. They've got shops all over the place, and they're blowing up like crazy. But part of that is because of the exposure that girls like you are giving them. So, and it's also, like I said, it's healthy exposure. It's not, you're not out there just flaunting your stuff. You're doing what you're promoting yourself in a very positive light. So
Thank
it's
you.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, longboarding and photography, you said?
Writing. Yeah, the writing. So that helps with the blog for the Fight Card podcast.
Okay.
Because kind of combines two passions, in one. I actually haven't written in a while.
Right.
I used to do a lot of writing and music, but then I guess as I grew up, I just kind of like stopped.
Right.
So the fact that this is kind of giving me another avenue to get back into it, I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's cool. How did that opportunity come about? I mean, it's not every day that that Spider reaches out to different people, and I know you did the initial podcast with him. Was it after that he kind of reached out?
So I did. It was either 2 or 3 podcasts. I think now I'm thinking about it. I think it might have been 3 podcasts. And after this last one, that's when he had reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I like the way you speak. I like how you carry yourself. You're very clear." And then, of course, just being in the fight community, active and actually like watching the entertainment too.
Right.
So he was like, "I think you'd be a great fit for the team," and I was just like, "Yeah, let's do it."
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's awesome. I saw that you had joined the team, and I was like super excited about that because I know you'll be a great addition to them. And like I said, I enjoy your content. I see your little TikToks and stuff that you're doing, and it's always cool. Well, what would you say is your what do you enjoy most about fighting? Is it the training? Is it the lifestyle? Is it the fight itself? What does Marina enjoy most about being a fighter?
I feel like that's a pretty like complex question. There's so many different things that I enjoy. I guess honestly, it seems like it just keeps me on track. So I had mentioned before that I had like a little break from just training in general, like wrestling and stuff like that. And so during that break, I noticed like that's when I was kind of becoming an adult and trying to find myself in the world. And it was very roller coaster like. But the two things that always grounded me outside of family, church and fighting, or church and training in general. So at that time, I was kind of going down in a low point, and so I was like, what is it that I'm not doing? At this time, I was active in church. I was around my family. So I was like, what is going on? It's like, you know what? I remember training, and then I remembered having that passion and that want to do something. So it seemed like both of those things are the reason why it pushed me in this direction. So I like the most that it just feels right. I don't know how to explain it. Like whenever I'm fighting and when I'm not fighting, I feel the difference, and I like who I am when I am fighting.
Yeah.
So that, and then of course keeping me healthy, the camaraderie, just the fact that I know how to defend myself and can feel safe if I'm ever alone versus like if I was ever alone and I didn't have any training, I feel like I would be pretty timid and scared, honestly.
Right.
But I feel like because I have that training, I'm able to go out and try different things, and I don't worry about like, what if someone kidnaps me?
For sure.
I just I like everything that fighting has to offer, and then even down to the days that are terrible, like I still enjoy the days when I'm the nail.
Right.
Because I know that even though it sucks right now, like the fact that I made it through an hour of just whatever it was, being suffocated by people or choked out, it just makes me feel like stronger in that sense, so even like the worst days are enjoyable when it comes to training.
Well, I think that's something that is what we all gain from it, right? Is being able to have those days and know that, you're not always going to be the hammer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, and more often not, you're going to be the nail coming up. But that's where your resolve, that's where your, intestinal fortitude, your willingness to continue to push and not give up. And I tell people all the time, there's so much more. Like you mentioned, as a female, being able to walk by yourself and not being worried that somebody's going to kidnap you. That confidence.
Yeah.
It's those type of things that I try to preach to people. It's not about just being able to beat people up or punch and kick. It's about so much more that you get from it, mentally. Mm-hmm. That fighting really can bring out, and being able to train and be around all the guys, and like they're not feeling sorry for you when they're in there. Like they're going at it, and they're choking you and they're pushing you. And I mean, when you're training for a fight, like we treat you just like there is no difference, right? There is no difference, female, male. Yeah. Now, of course, you don't have guys like trying to knock you out, right? That are way bigger than you, but you still, they're in your face and they're making you hurt and making you tired, and so for you to overcome that, it's got to grow something as far as your character is concerned.
Yeah, exactly. Like the character development from it all, and the development in all areas, like I mentioned, in life and your daily routine and your who you are and what you do, your habits. Like it just really seems like fighting for me when I was doing it and when I'm not doing it, like I just notice that difference, and it really is a core foundation in the kind of person that I want to be and the life that I want to live.
That's awesome. Well, Marina, I appreciate you coming in today. You know, getting to know you a little bit better. I learned some stuff about you that I didn't know, so we are definitely thankful for that. But you know, before we cut it off, I do want to give you an opportunity to kind of give anybody out there a shout out or a thanks, or you know, whatever you want to say at this point.
Well, of course, you know, thank you to my family and, you know, the team, all of you guys, y'all support through the whole past year of training, the fights. That's just amazing from you guys. And then, of course, my sponsors. You know, I want to thank Rock's Discount, the Training Room, Oh My Lash, who has been helping me. So, ladies, if you want to get your lashes done,
There you go. That's
they're
a big
good
thing.
place. Yeah.
Oh my God, Ashley's always about her lashes. It's like, I don't have my lashes. I'm
Yes.
like,
Well, and then being in like the sport, there's sometimes it's just hard to put on a full face of makeup,
Yes.
and I want to feel presentable, but my lashes will at least be done, and so
there
I
you
can,
go.
you know, put on chapstick and look fine.
Right.
And then of course, Reslos Media has been helping me out a lot as well for my past 2 fights, so they've been recording some of my fights also.
Okay, are they the ones that you're? Because I see you putting some of your content.
Yes.
Out.
Yeah,
they're the
for
ones
them.
doing that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, tell everybody where they can find you. Give them your Instagram. Give them your Facebook. You know, whatever you want to.
I am on Facebook. I am more active on Instagram though. So Facebook, Marina Robles, just my first and last name, and then Instagram is at Marina Renee Darling. So you guys can find me on there. That's usually where I post most of the content.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Marina. It was awesome to have you in here today. You know, we'll have to be catching up with you. I know you've got. You know, I don't think you have a fight. We don't have a fight scheduled for you right now, right? But I know that we're always looking. That's the one thing that it is a little harder for you to do is get those fights. It's hard enough as a female, but it's another thing when you're 104
lowest
pounds.
weight class,
Lowest, smallest weight class out there. You know, so but we'll definitely get those fights going. Well, thank you for coming in, and
thank you for having me on.
Everybody, thanks for tuning in to our second episode of you know, on the podcast of Fight Talk. We're going to be having more coaches and fighters coming up, so stay tuned, and we'll talk to you soon. Mm-hmm.